Happy Sabbath evening. It's a little later than I expected it to be. There was a bit more snow than we thought there was going to be, and we stopped off on the way. We are in Spokane. There's a doggy requesting loves currently. But I wanted to read one more story with you guys on this Sabbath day. So I'm reading out of the first volume of Uncle Arthur's Storytime books. And I have a story titled Thoughtless Tom. So the little note from Uncle Arthur says this: thinking ahead about how your actions will make others feel is what thoughtfulness is all about. Of course, you will want to make sure that what does result is good, which takes planning. But that just adds to the fun of being thoughtful. So here we have the story of Thoughtless Tom. And let me see if I can show you the picture. There's a picture of Thoughtless Tom. Look at your shoes, Tom, said Mama. You've been playing football in the mud again. You can't possibly go to school in those shoes after lunch. And look at your clothes, mud from head to foot. Tom tried to look sorrowful. I'm sorry, he said. That's not much good, said his sister Kitty. It won't get the mud off your clothes. You had better not say too much, Kitty, said Mama. I seem to have spent most of the morning putting things away that you left lying around. Lunch ready? Asked Tom, trying to change the subject quickly. There you are, said Mama. You want your lunch on time, but you never think of all the extra work you make for me by being so careless. Of course, lunch was ready as usual, and Kitty and Tom sat down to eat. Mother tried her best to get the mud off Tom's clothes so that he wouldn't be late for school in the afternoon. Lunch was soon over, and away went Tom with a full stomach and an empty head, quite forgetting all his mother had said to him. He was soon to learn a lesson that he would never forget. It happened the very next day. Rip! Tom was sliding down the branch of a tree in the park when he felt something stick into him. He couldn't stop himself, so he could do nothing but leave part of his trousers on the tree. It was an awful gash in his trousers, and he started to run home as fast as he could go, with one hand holding the pieces together. All the way he had time to guess what would happen to him when he arrived, but he was mistaken. Oh, Kitty, cried Tom, look what's happened to my trousers. Where's Mama? Hush, whispered Kitty. Mama's in bed. She was taken ill this morning, and she had to send for the doctor. He said she'll be in bed for at least 2 or 3 weeks. Whew, whistled Tom. What are we going to do? Get on as best we can. But how about my trousers? They must be mended before I can go to school. I'm going upstairs to Mama. No, you're not, said Kitty. The doctor says Mama is not to be disturbed by anyone. But I must get my trousers mended, said Tom. Well, Mama can't. I suppose I'll have to help you. All of a sudden, Kitty began to realize the responsibility that had fallen upon her. Here's a picture of Kitty mending Tom's trousers. Together, they managed to get some sort of patch fixed over the gaping hole. Next, they had to get their own lunch together. Nothing was ready, nothing cooked, and very little in the cupboard. I'll go and buy some things, said Kitty, if you'll set the table. This was a new experience for both of them. Tom was terribly hungry by the time Kitty returned, but there was no use grumbling to her. They ate their meal in silence. They washed up the lunch dishes and breakfast dishes also, and wrote an excuse to the teacher for Kitty, who had to stay at home. What a lot of things there were to do. Come back early and help me, won't you, Tom? Pleaded Kitty, as Tom ran off to school. Never had Tom come home so promptly before, even without going to his beloved game of football. How's Mama? He asked when he ran in. Just the same, said Kitty. Well, what do you want me to do? Oh, Tom, I never knew there were so many things to be done. I've been running about ever since You went out of the house, and yet I seem to have done nothing at all, said Kitty in tears. "It's no use crying," said Tom. "Well, I wish Mama would get better," wept Kitty. "She will," said Tom. "Now what can I do to help?" As the days passed, Tom began to reveal the best side of his character. All his thoughtlessness was left behind. There was no one to help him out of his difficulties except Kitty, and she needed as much help as she gave. Kitty herself learned that she must not expect somebody else to tidy up after her, for if she left anything lying about, she was the only one to put it in its place. There was no more grumbling about lunch because, well, it was the work of their own hands. If something wasn't cooked just right, they had only themselves to blame. At last the day arrived when Mama could walk downstairs again. How glad her children were. Not only because Mama was well, but because there was someone upon whom they could roll the burden of everything. As for Mama, she was greatly pleased at all she saw and full of praise for the way the two had managed while she was sick. Most of all, she was surprised in the change in Tom. "What has happened to my thoughtless Tom?" she said, as she saw him sweeping the walk down to the gate, washing the dishes, and peeling potatoes. "Surely," she said, "this isn't the same boy I used to have. The old Tom has disappeared. I shall have to call this one Tom the Thoughtful." And here's a picture of Tom and Kitty making food together, Tom peeling potatoes. So I know it's late. I'm sorry about that. And I know that we have some weeks ahead of us where our kiddos won't be in school. People will be at home more than usual. And I just want to encourage us all to not be thoughtless Tom, but to be thoughtful Tom in the areas that we can be while we're cooped up without church and without small groups and things to fill up our time. To be thoughtful and to reach out where we can. We have cell phones, we have the internet. It's a wonderful thing. And I hope you will join me later for another Uncle Arthur's story time. Thanks for tuning in, and good night.